Salute. Hey.
So what I think is so interesting is that, like, in the beginning, you didn't necessarily set out to create what Soulection has become.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's part of the success, that it's because it happened organically and you didn't set out to like create a business, or did you always know you were building something bigger?
I think we had the vision, but the times have changed so much that we didn't know what it would be. But we just knew that we wanted to bring people together through music. We wanted to travel, and we wanted to put artists that didn't have a platform on, especially at that time coming through SoundCloud, coming up from MySpace music into Facebook and Mixcloud, and just using all these different platforms. This was like pre-Apple Music, pre-Spotify era. So it was just using like these free services that were allowing us to get the word out and social media.
At what second did you feel like I'm on to something here?
Yeah, I mean, I think like just seeing the reaction of the internet when we put out maybe like our third or fourth release, and just seeing how like this snowball was starting to grow of artists that we really admire wanting to like work with us. You know what I'm saying? It's like they were reaching out to us, because on our first project, it was Joe reaching out to them like, hey, we have this cool thing we want to do. Are you guys down? They were like, yeah, that sounds cool, I'm down. But once we put that out, and over the course of like 6 months, all these artists spread out, and artists started to reach out to us.
I think back in 2011, we put out this free compilation with all our favorite producers, and we didn't think it was gonna be anything. We hosted it through our site. It was just like a MediaFire zip file link, hosted through our homepage, and it got like 10,000 downloads from all over. So at that time, this was again pre-everything. Like there was no Instagram. Exactly. So from that point on, it just kind of started progressing, and people would start demanding things like on Twitter, and I think Instagram had just came out, and just they would comment on the radio show like, hey, we want more. So then we started taking it more serious, and then I thought that we had like a great diverse following, strictly because we were bringing in artists from different parts of the world. So they were bringing their audience from from Europe and Australia and places like that. So we've always just been really early on artists. Mm-hmm. Sometimes too early where people don't get it, but then it's like they tie back like, oh, Soulection put out their first release. A lot of artists who are like very successful today.
Like if you were to boil it down, why do you think that you've been able to like garner the respect in the music industry and just like the audience?
I feel like a lot of people respect the whole DIY culture that we kind of embody, because we give a lot of artists and people who create their own Soulection type brands, we give them this hope that it is possible. Like I can do it, you can do it. If you're an artist, a producer, and you're making music, in your bedroom, there's this whole idea like, yo, like if I work hard enough and my sound is that good, I can one day be a part of Soulection, or I can one day grow to go on tour and play these shows and like follow my dream.
So do you guys feel like content now, or do you still feel
hell no. No, but that's real. I mean, some people are content. You can tell like they're comfortable, and sometimes their work ethic or their inspiration changes.
So then what are you still reaching for? Like what do you still want to accomplish?
There was a fly on the wall in some of our calls. There's so much we want to do.
Yeah.
But we don't have as many resources in the bandwidth, because we're
independent.
Yeah, we're independent, and we all have our own things that we work on for Soulection, but also our own brand. So yeah, there's so much we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an example, I mean, for those who don't know, it's like Soulection, it's hard to define, like what is it? Yeah. But on a business level, like it's about like 5 to 6 entities. You have the record label, you have the radio show, you have Soulection Supply, which is the merch side, and then you have one of our biggest I guess channels of them all, outside of the radio show, is the touring aspect. It's called The Sound of Tomorrow Live. And so anything that we tour around the world, domestically, internationally, the Soulection Experience, which is our festival, that all runs through that business. That's like huge for us. We also have music that we're trying to put out, and then I'm doing the radio show weekly. So there's a lot of moving pieces, but I think at the end of the day, when you think about Soulection, it's the music. The music that we've put out over the years, the artists, the producers, the vocalists.
It's a foundation, pretty much.
So the goal for us is, for the last couple of years, we had to rebrand, refocus, restructure the business. 'Cause like I said, when we started, it was all off a handshake. So we had to go back and restructure the whole thing. Obviously, there's artists that grow and some people grow apart. And we had to figure out who's really a part of this now. Yeah. You know what I mean? As people change, success change, so does the mind. So we had to just relocate, reconfigure, and now we're just at a point where we're trying to build that. There's no reason we shouldn't win a Grammy. There's no reason why we shouldn't have platinum plaques. There's no reason why we shouldn't be placed in the Billboard 200. But doing it Soulection style, not where we have to work with like a pop artist. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm saying we shouldn't have to just work with the pop artist to get there. So it's just like a constant, Rubik's Cube. We're trying to figure out the formula of life, of like how to figure out the selection formula of how to like really elevate. All we need is one artist in-house to just take it to the next level. Once you get that, look what TDE did with Kendrick and SZA and how they just built that off of like 1 or 2 artists and brought in Schoolboy and really did. Look what Rockefeller did, look what OVO did. Like, it's all off of one artist. So if you could just build it around one person, that's all you really need, But it's just figuring out who's down to ride, who's down to like invest and to grow, you know what I mean? Because everyone and nowadays just wants to plug in and then take what they can and just run with it, So it's just finding the right person.
Well, the question we ask everyone is if you could have a drink with anyone in the world, dead or alive, who would it be? Where would it take place? What would you be drinking?
Dead or alive?
Dead or alive?
For me, off top would be Kobe Bryant. Ooh. I love Kobe. Because I'm from LA, but also I just love his work ethic. I love his what he calls his Mamba mentality. I try to for me, I always try to cross sports over to what I do, even though it has nothing to do with music, like in terms of like the business side of it, because I just respect the amount of pressure. They're on camera. They're kind of treated like animals sometimes. People just don't care if they're hurt. They expect them to play, show up. They turn on the TV or show up to the game and don't think about what goes on behind the scenes. A lot of mental side to it. You got to be tough, especially if you're like one of the best players in the world. So I respect that, and like the stuff they put their bodies through, and I respect how many injuries he worked through, and you wouldn't even know, broken fingers, broken hands, twisted ankles. Like, I just admire that, and he kept going. Like, what I always try to say is like, work harder than your situation. So I feel like Kobe, and so did other players, but for him, he's a hometown player. So I would just talk to him about work ethic, about how to deal with pressure, how to deal with like adversity and things like that, and just like his experiences, It'd
be a good drink.
Oh yeah, super good drink.
I think for me, regardless of like his current state in like music and like entertainment, Kanye West, just knowing like his whole story, but knowing that when he started, a lot of people telling him in the beginning, like, yo, you can't do these things together, you have to do one or the other. So he put his time and his energy into producing, but he still had this love for wanting to rap. So every chance he got, he would still like rap for people and share his talent. So just going from that to where he is now as a producer, where he is now as a rapper, him branching off into fashion, design, architecture, all these different things, because for me, I have this insane love for music, but I'm also a painter, a designer, and all these different things. And there were times in my life within the past 7 to 8 years where people told me like, hey, you can't do it all. You need to focus on one thing, because when you try to focus on 4, 5, 6 different things, you're like spreading your energy thin. Instead of putting little pieces of energy into all these different things, how about you put 100% of your energy into one thing? And I feel like watching him and his success in all these different fields is very similar to where I want to be and where I'm growing to be. So I know he's like in his current place, and a lot of people aren't the biggest fan of him, but just his work ethic and just his whole vision, I think it'd be a really cool person to have a conversation with.
That's real. Thank you for having us.
Hey, thanks. Cheers to your success and everything.
What are you doing?